Hey, good morning, and welcome to another one of our series of interviews that we are doing with artists who are participating in the Riverdale Art Walk. So, very excited that Riverdale Art Walk will be in a couple of weeks, June 18th and 19th, down at Jimmy Simpson Park. That's in Leslieville, so a really fun, dynamic area of the city. So, if you haven't been before, I encourage you to come and check it out. And so today I'm excited to talk to Christie Baker about her work and her inspiration. And I'm going to just go right along and invite her to join us. Okay, let's see.
Hello.
Hello.
Am
Oh,
I
you're
sideways?
sideways.
There we go. I'm straight. How can you tell this is my first live?
Well, it's actually kind of hilarious because it's 3 for 3 this morning.
Oh,
All
really?
three
Okay, well,
interviews
there you
have
go.
been sideways.
Okay, well, then I don't feel too bad. How are
I think
you?
it's just a creative thing, don't
Yeah,
you?
right. I think it's the way my little tripod wants to go. I borrowed it from my daughter who does YouTube videos, and that's the way she shoots them.
Oh, right, of course.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you
Good.
doing? Are you all
I'm
ready for the
fine.
Riverdale Art Walk?
I'm getting there. There's still, there's still some things I want to do, some painting that needs to be done. But yeah, for the most part, I feel prepared and I feel very excited. So I'm happy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's going to be fabulous to kind of
yeah.
just, I don't know, show your work for the first time in a couple of years, right? Yeah.
Well,
To
yeah, and
lots of people.
it will be my first show in the Toronto area as well, actually. We moved here from Vancouver just before the pandemic started. So I have been basically shut in, like away from friends and family in a new city for the whole time. And so you have no idea how excited I am to get out and see people like you face to face. I feel like I know you because I've watched you on all the Artist Network, orientation sessions and marketing strategies and all of that. But yeah, it'll be nice to actually see some people.
Yeah, well, it's a great way to kind of expand your network and
Yeah.
kind of within certainly the Toronto community for art lovers as well. Like I find it's usually, people come out and they really enjoy and appreciate the work, which is just so nice to see.
I'm really looking forward to that actually, and just getting some feedback and seeing just being part of the community in person will be really nice. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So let's talk about you.
Okay, what would
So
you like to know?
I love your work.
Thank you.
I love the kind of atmospheric quality of it and stuff,
Thank
but I
you.
understand that it's inspired by nostalgia. So I'd love to
It
hear a bit more about that.
Well, it is. It's funny because I was been asked, as throughout my painting career, oh, bless you, what inspires me, and I always say, why do you paint landscapes? And I always say, oh, because I love light and reflection, and and that is true. I mean, that's really what I love to see, the way light reflects. I love all of that stuff. But I was recently told, everyone who paints landscapes loves light and reflection. Like that's not unique. Like, why do you paint them? So I had to do kind of a deep dive on that. It was actually Joanne Pollock who asked me that question, and she said, no, you got to go deeper. And I started to think about it. And in particular, I've been painting landscapes since we left Vancouver, since we left family and friends. And I've been pulling old photographs that I use as reference materials and painting, not necessarily from the exact image, but painting those memories, thinking about who I was with when I was there. All of the different travels that I've had with friends and family, just all of those experiences. And I feel like it's almost become a journal of my life and a journal of where I've been. And a lot of, when I look at it, I actually get, a bit cheery, but a lot of it is like the feelings that I had when I was in those places at that time.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, and I always think it's really, I mean, for me as well as an artist, I always think it's important when you paint to have strong emotion. I do think that
Yeah.
emotion comes out in the piece and it talks to the people who eventually buy the piece, which I think is really powerful.
Yeah, and I really hope that communicates, that translates to people when they see it, because it is definitely, it's definitely a record of my memories and my emotions and my life experiences, and for me, who I was with at the time. So
And so because they're so personal, do you find you have a hard time letting them go to new
no,
homes?
no, I'm very happy to let them go.
Or is
Please
the
come.
therapy kind
No,
of in the
no,
piece?
please come. The therapy's in the piece for sure. No, please come buy my art. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, I want them to go to people who appreciate them and who find their own sense of meaning in them. And so, what I felt when I painted that picture and when I was living that experience is different than what someone else may feel when they see it. But if they have a connection to it, whatever their connection is, then that's just a beautiful thing. And I'm happy to have that, So no, go to a good home to, fly, be free, just like your children, I
That's
wanted
right.
to go out into the world and be happy. So yeah.
But so it sounds like for you, a lot of the inspiration and stuff is around the process and how you produce it and what you do in your mark making. So therefore, once it's done, you're kind of done and happy to see
Yeah,
it fly.
exactly. And it, you know, and even in my marks, actually, like, you know, I was having trouble really articulating my process. And so, again, sort of through a conversation with Joanne, I started filming myself as I was painting because it's such a right brain thing. And then have to sort of have your left brain articulate, you know, exactly the step by step actions that you're taking and why you're taking them. I found that really hard. So I would videotape myself painting and realize, first of all, that I do it very quickly when it works. For like the first 85% of the picture can go very fast. And then the last part gets very deliberate and very specific, and that can take weeks. And I use tools that are from my past as well. I grew up with a very close family, and we paint, we not paint, we bake, and we cook, and we renovate houses together. And I've done that with my parents as well as with my daughter. And so I actually use my kitchen tools when I paint. Like I use my cake scraper and my spatula and all of those things. I mean, I use brushes too, but I use a putty knife from, you know, that I used when I was laying tile with my dad or drywalling. And so it just sort of makes it, you know, and again, it's sort of that whole feeling of reconnecting with my past. And I think having a large part of my painting process over the last couple of years be far away from family and friends, it's just the whole thing just feels like it's full circle and reconnecting. And I love that because it also gives me a lot of inspiration about ideas going forward because it won't stop there. You know, life will continue. And so I will have endless material to paint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd love to see your array of tools, and it sounds
Yeah.
fascinating.
I actually have my favorite little jar right here.
Oh, cool.
This is my straw cleaner. This is my putty knife, my spatula, my cake scraper is somewhere here, but I have a little jar that's always by my side. So.
And how did you start doing that? Like, how did you kind of go from, I mean, most people start more traditionally with a paintbrush, and there has to be something that triggers it.
You know, I have to say that I did start traditionally, and I owe that sort of exploration of tools to Margot Roy, who you will know as well. But I did
Who's also in the Riverdale Art Walk?
Yes, exactly, and who I've seen recently a little bit. But she was teaching a class, an abstract class at the DVSA that I did online very, very early in the pandemic, and she encouraged us to just explore tools. And so really, she said, like, go to your toolbox, go to your kitchen, go to, you know, I've got old credit cards. You know, she was credit card scrapers, whatever you can find. Just find interesting thing to make marks. And I think those tools were familiar to me because I've used them for years and years and years. And so those are the ones that I just gravitate to. I like how they feel in my hand. I like what I know I can do with them. And yeah, but I think Margot gets credit for that.
Well, that's good. Well, you know, it's always nice to be able to kind of, I think, be influenced by what other artists do and then make it yourself, make it your own, right? And sometimes I think it's a bit of permission. You know, like I paint with a palette knife, and people are often amazed. They're like, no, but what about the brushes? I'm like, I don't do that. Like, I don't. It doesn't interest me. But it seems that it takes a while for people to wrap their head around the fact you can use these other tools.
And I do like a palette knife too. I like the feeling of that kind of motion of a palette knife. But I do combine brushes. There's times when I just feel like I need to blend. Sometimes I'd like to be bolder and just know that I can just leave a big glob of paint and not feel like I have to blend it out. But I do. Every now and then I get those brushes out and smooth things down a little bit. But yeah, so I use both. But I love a palette knife too.
So at the end of the day, you have this kind of really, it sounds like energetic mark making. But it's interesting because when you look at your final pieces, they seem very tranquil and very calm. It seems like a bit of a juxtaposition from the energy of creating to the final result.
It is. It's kind of interesting because they go very fast, but I think that's where in the end I sort of make very deliberate choices and sort of settle things down a little bit. And even though I'm making very fast marks, I think that the way I work with the colors and the way I layer them, it's not always obvious because there's a lot of layering on top of each, like mark on top of mark on top of mark. So when I have a spatula, I'm going like this over and over and over and then sideways and over. So I'm almost blending them out as I do it. And so it's sort of got that abstract almost kind of in some of them. You can see almost hints of like a pixelated kind of a thing. But then because I go over it so many times, it gets smoothed out. Mm-hmm. And then that's I guess, cool. Yeah, where it becomes a little more tranquil. I think where the bold marks come in is I do like a lot of vertical lines and sort of geometric lines and shapes. I'm looking at some over here as I talk to you, and those are, you know, sort of very strong marks that I do usually at the end, and that's sort of that last 20% I was talking about, where I'm really trying to, you know, the first goes fast, but then I'm trying to make very deliberate choices, and so a lot of those marks are made at the end very slowly.
And so for you're saying obviously your inspiration is still from nature. Is that typically tend to be from the West Coast, or is it kind of part of the
Well,
East Coast as well, or
you,
travels, or?
it's all of the above. I grew up in Alberta, so I think a lot of the ones that are, sort of gold skies and large fields are, family that was in rural Alberta and sort of east towards the Saskatchewan border. I have traveled from coast to coast in Canada when I was younger, and so yeah, I do have. I don't know if you can see these images, but there are a lot of images that I use as sort of inspiration source material, and a lot of that is West Coast because I was out there for 20 years. So there's a lot of Vancouver and Victoria Island and Whistler and those kinds of places. But there's also a lot from overseas. We've traveled a little bit, and so that definitely informs. I have some beautiful pictures of being in Italy, and the first time I went to Italy, I was there with my mom, and it was and my daughter actually, and my husband. But it was sort of like three generations of women, and it was really special. And so I have a lot of those pictures. And if you've ever seen a sunset off the coast of Sorrento looking out to Capri, it's pretty special.
Yeah.
So those are inspirational too. But I think, and a lot of it is in my mind, like they're amalgamations. I don't sit down and say, okay, today I'm going to paint Alberta. Today I'm going to paint, the West Coast, the ocean. It's more just I sort of get the feeling of a sky and I get a color palette. And I usually start very accidentally, like I just get color down. I get color down and I spray it, and it's a very loose and it's a very transparent. And I let the water work with the paint or a medium, depending on the case, and sort of form shapes and form patterns. And then I start to pick out the pieces, and then I see the landscape in it. And that all comes from, the images in my head and the references that I have on the wall or wherever. I've got a bunch of them, stacks of them actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds awesome.
Thank you.
And so what are you working on right now?
Well, I've got a bunch of stuff for the Riverdale artwork. I mean, I've got a collection that I've been working on for a while that's called Blurred Lines, and I've got several pieces of that. I've got a number of landscapes that I'm working with some brighter colors. You can see the ones behind me are fairly muted, but I'm going with some bright yellows, some reds, some magenta. So I've got a few pieces that are, for those of you who like color, get ready because that'll be there. But yeah, just playing with, just all of them are playing with skies and water. Where's the horizon? What's the reflection? As I said before, light and shadow. But all of them are really just, personal. They're just what I feel on the day. That's, and I hope that people will respond well. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they will. It's interesting because I know that the two pieces I've seen are like the one behind you, which is very much more tranquil and dark and muted, and then the other one was like bright yellows and stuff, which was really great.
I was actually wondering when submitting them, like, does this look like the same person painted them, or does it look like two people? Like, am I shooting myself in the foot? But it's the spectrum of what I do, and so I thought, people might as well just see it. And if you want something muted, then I have that for you, and if you want something in neon yellow, I'm your gal too.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that in real life too, it's harder to see through digitally, but I'm sure in real life too, the mark making and stuff has probably got that consistency that kind of connects all the pieces.
Yes, exactly. And often color palette too. Like if you're going, even though these ones are quite muted, I have other ones that are sort of more in the other vein, but are in the same color palette. So lots of variety. And I still have lots of painting I want to do before June 18th. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, you still have a week and a half. So.
I know, right? Good thing I came fast.
Yeah, but they've got to be dry before you put them in your tent,
exactly.
right?
Well, hence acrylics. I know I've been I paint primarily in acrylics. I didn't start that way. I started with oils. I've been doing acrylics more, and I did do a little bit of watercolor in the middle. But I've been going back to sort of finishing things in oils just because I think they're so beautiful. But that won't be happening this week. It'll be blow dryer and water and acrylics.
So when someone comes to your tent at Riverdale, what should they expect to see?
Well, they'll see a lot of landscapes. They will see me and my mom, who is coming all the way from Nanaimo, BC, to help me out and answer questions.
Fabulous.
Yeah, they will see a lot of landscapes, large, small, from 12 by 12 up to 3 by 5 feet. They will see. Really, they'll get a glimpse into my life. That's what they're going to see. They're going to meet me, and they're going to see the way I feel and sort of read my journal. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah, and hopefully that will create an emotional connection for them as well.
I hope so. I really hope so. And and if they don't want to buy something, they're just going to get a good chat. So hopefully just meet a lot of people and build some relationships.
Yeah, well, that's pretty valuable as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, that's awesome. I really
Well, thank
appreciate
you.
you taking the time to chat, and I look forward to seeing your pieces in real life and to meeting your mom.
Yeah.
I was just in Nanaimo, so that's
Oh, were
cool.
you? Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, yeah, she'll
Yeah,
be there. Look for Carol. She'll be there.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
That
Thanks,
sounds
Kate.
fabulous.
Okay.
All right, thank
Bye.
you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.